All right, here is the second video for the 127 January 27th Ableton training, how to build a Sunday service. So you can see I'm uploading the first video right now on YouTube. So what I'm going to do now is go to my Ableton set that we built, and this is, I think, dark now. I don't think it was dark in the previous video. It's because it's actually on a different computer. This is on the iMac in the auditorium, and I'm controlling it from my laptop through a TeamViewer session. So what I needed to do, we built everything. We added, you saw how I added titles to the locators. I added content here. We added transitions between songs. We added the auto repeat for those pads and things like that where it needs it in the service. Different elements here. We added celebrations audio. We did really 95% of all of the Ableton build. We added the visual cue track so that people behind stage can see when their cue's coming up and when they need to get on stage. The only thing that's really left to do in here, there's a couple of steps. Right now I have to change the routing of this audio so that it goes to where I want it to go to on the soundboard. The reason I couldn't do this before is because I was working on my laptop and I don't have the options available for audio routing on my laptop that I do in the auditorium, and I don't need them because I only have two speakers on my laptop, a left and a right side, so it's a stereo audio feed. So there's not a ton of options, but in the auditorium I have a Dante virtual sound card session that allows me to send, I think, up to 64 channels, but I only use 8 channels of audio for the output of this multi-track to send to up to 8 different channels on my soundboard to allow the sound guy to control the percussion sounds that he's hearing, the keys sounds that he's hearing, and the electric guitar is all separate and individual instead of just more or less of all of it, if that makes sense. So what I have to do first is unfold the group. Most of the, like this stuff up here, the click has audio sent, but it's by default sent to channel 1, which is where I wanted it already. So anyway, all I need to do is the multi-track. So I unfold the group here for the multi-track for only want to sing, and I hold down shift and click the bottom track to select all of it at once. And rather than sending to the group, which is what it's set to do right now, and what that means is all of this audio is going to go up a layer to this group, which is now it's set to the master output, which is just the left and right on my speakers. I want to send it to ext out, which stands for external out, which I have set in Ableton to be my virtual sound card, my Dante virtual sound card. I've got to do a few things here. So generally, this is similar to the process in the previous video where I transposed the tonal instruments only. And the first one, if you remember, normally it would be the first tonal instrument that you hit as you're going down the line. All the rest of them are tonal instruments. Everything above it is percussion instruments. That's true in this case except for synth loop. If you remember, we found there's a little bit of singing in addition to percussion loop sounds. So I'm going to treat that one differently. Usually I'd be able to grab the first 2 or 3 or 4 tracks would all be percussion. In this case, the first 3 are, and they go to output number 3. The 4th one is not. The 5th one is claps, percussion. That's going to go to output number 3. This one's weird, and I want to be able to hear it pretty well because it's kind of cool. I'm going to send that to 5 and 6, which you'll see is going to be where I send my keys tracks as well. Synth bass, if it says synth bass or sub bass, I want to send that to 4 because I have a designated channel on my soundboard just for the low end, really deep rumble, super sub bass or synth bass. Keys, I've got 6 different keys tracks. They're all going to go to channels 5 and 6. Electrics, we're going to go to 7 and 8. Vox FX, I'm going to send that to 2. And that one is done. Same process here. I'm going to grab the first one, shift click to grab all of them and set them to external out. Can do that for all of them at once, but then I have to go individually by group now. Synth loop, I think, is percussion. So I'm going to send that to the percussion channel. I may change that later if I find they're singing or something on it. I don't think there is. Bass. Bass is different than synth bass. Bass is usually bass guitar, which I don't want to send to its own channel. I'm going to send that to channel 2, which I call loop optional, which pretty much means I don't want to hear it. So the sound guy has the second channel here, loop optional channel, usually all the way down. You can't hear it at all. That's where I send the voices. That's where I send the bass guitar. That's where I send the acoustic guitar. I don't want to pull it out completely, but it's so irrelevant that I don't want it front and center at all. I'm not going to want to bring these up usually, so I send them to the second channel. Synth bass, like before, is going to go to 4 because that usually I do want to be able to isolate and elevate. Electric guitars 1 through 3 are going to go to 7 and 8 again. Piano and all the keys are going to go together to the 5 and 6 group. And BGVs, send that to 2 because again that's loop optional. I don't want to hear that. And I can always change it if I do, but that's just where I put it for right now. So Worthy will do the same process, grab all of them, change them to external out, grab the percussion, send that to 3, which is my percussion. Bass and acoustic, what I can do here instead of clicking multiple times is grab the first one and then instead of shift click do command click, and that'll only select the ones I click on. It's not going to grab, like if I do shift click, it's going to grab all those, synth bass included. But if I do command click, I can jump over that. Send these to number 2. Send synth bass to number 4 again. Electric guitars are going to go to 7 and 8. Piano and keys are going to go to 5 and 6. BGVs is going to go to 2, and that one is done. And then scroll down here and grab all of these. External out. And I'll go in reverse order right now. So I'm going to grab all the singers, tenor, BGVs, BGVs 2, and send that to number 2. Grab keys 6 through piano, all the keyed instruments, 5 and 6. Grab all my electrics and send them to 7 and 8. Bass is probably a bass guitar, that'll go to 2. FX is likely percussion. Percussion and drums are going to go to 3. All right, so sometimes they name them and label them different things, and you have to really go in and listen to it. Just for the video's sake, just for broad strokes purposes, I made some assumptions, but those are now all routed, and then this multi-track is by default already routed to external output 2. So that's good, because that's my celebrations audio. When I created that, I routed that appropriately. Cool, so then the only other thing that we need to do to make this an official, ready to go Ableton Live set, actually 2 things I forgot to do, is move the, here it is. This little guy fades the Spotify that's playing pre-service, and it's right here floating in the middle of my 5-minute countdown, because we used to do, remember the song Bulletproof by Mute Math? We'd have that play at a certain point during the countdown video. At this point during the countdown video, I wanted Spotify to fade at that point, and then Bulletproof would start playing from ProPresenter. Lately we've been doing the audio from the actual countdown videos from churchmotiongraphics.com, so that Spotify needs to fade at the beginning of that video. So I just did Command X to cut, and then I can double hit the stop button, which will move my cursor to the beginning here, and do Command V to paste. And so we'll jump over there and see, yep, it pasted it right there. The last thing I need to do to finish this worship set in Ableton is change the item numbers and make sure I have a slide 1 command for every transition that I want to happen in ProPresenter. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see better. This is item number 5 by default. This is just loaded in with the template before we started building in the previous video. And I need to make sure that song 1, Only Want to Sing, is truly item number 5 in ProPresenter. And it is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I can see that because I'm sitting next to the computer that I just built that on. So you'll have to take my word for it. That's item 5. And yep, it's got a slide 1 clip right here. This says slide number is in clear, but I know that that's actually slide 1. The next one is going to be slide 2 in view here. Yeah, slide 2 is next. So this is slide 1. The next transition is going to be in ProPresenter is going to be into the welcome, and that's item 7 in Ableton right now, and truly it is item 7 in ProPresenter, so that's great. And I put a slide 1. Maybe we did this in the previous video and I don't remember, but it's just good to proof it anyway and check your work. I got a slide 1 command in there, and then the next thing is going to be, the next transition in ProPresenter will be song 2, which is currently item, this is incorrect, item 6. It needs to be item 9, because in ProPresenter it's item 9. If I send it item 6, it's going to pull up a header or something like that. So I go into unfold this this search pane, local Ableton files, templates and tools, and I've got a folder here titled ProPresenter 6 MIDI. Fold that down again, and I've got all these options here. I want the select playlist item. I don't want select playlist because, again, that, if you remember from my previous video, I explained this references, select playlist references which playlist I want to use. I want to use January 27th. That's not what I want to control right here. I want to control the actual playlist item number. Within January 27th playlist, I want item number 9. So I'm going to go, right, 9? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yes, 9. I'm going to find item 9. I'm going to drag that in right on top of item 6. That'll disappear. Item 9 now. Slide 1. Perfect. Now the next transition in ProPresenter is going to be song 3, so I can jump there. And this says item 7. That's incorrect. Song 3 is actually item 10. So I'm going to pull item 10 in. This has slide number. Perfect. And then the next transition in ProPresenter is going to be the sermon, or the interactive, where the speaker comes out and prays and starts the sermon. So I'm going to go there. And there is no item number here, because if you remember, we placed this locator in the previous video. This was not part of the template. So we need item number 12. Our last song was 10, and then we had a header, which would be 11, and then the document for the sermon is 12. So we're going to go item 12 and drag that in. But the other thing you need to notice is this is slide 38. So right now, if I don't change it, Ableton will get to this point, it'll play in ProPresenter, it'll hit item 12, slide 38, which probably is nothing. There's usually not 38 slides in a sermon. I need to change this to be slide 1. So don't grab this, that's item 1. Fold that back up and find trigger slide, slide 1. Drop that in right on top, and this is a clear command that I need to move, otherwise it'll clear slide 1, which actually wouldn't be a big deal because slide 1 is just a lighting change, but I'm going to get rid of it still just for good practice. So this is now item 12, slide 1. That transition is built in Ableton and ProPresenter now. So now the next transition that's going to happen in ProPresenter is actually not here at all. It's song 4 is the next transition. And this needs to be item number, we said 12 was the sermon, so then 13 would be a header, and 14 is the song. So this is item 11. We need to change this to item 14. But don't grab slide 14 that you just were working with. You need to fold this back up and find select playlist item, item 14. Drag it right on top of item 11. That's got a slide number. Perfect. The next transition in ProPresenter that we want automated is the celebrations transition. There is no item number there again because this was not part of our template. We added this locator ourselves. So we want item 16. If you go, song 4 was 14, celebrations header was 15, celebrations document is 16. So we'll drag item 16 into the playlist item number track. And then slide 33 is nothing because it's there's not 33 slides in a celebrations document. So I needed to change that to trigger slide 1. And that wiped out my clear command as well, which is great. Now the next transition, the final transition in ProPresenter that we want Ableton to control is going to be the end of service, Ableton queued end of service, which is going to be right here. And currently in its spot is item 15. That's incorrect. If we count from item 16, which was celebrations, then you've got a header, which would be 17, and then you've got the Ableton queued end of service document, which would be item 18. We need to change this from 15 to now be 18. So we'll go item number, again, don't grab slide number, that's what we just had open. We want item number 18, put it right on top. But then nothing will happen because we don't have a trigger slide 1 command. So we need to fold this up and grab our trigger slide 1 and put it right there. Great. So this is officially done. This is Sunday ready Ableton build. I can network these computers together now, hit play, and all the transitions that I need to happen will happen. I'll test this at this point, but the build itself is actually done. So thanks for watching.